गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीवन। और आज के लास्ट हिंदी ट्रिपल ए सेशन में आप सबका स्वागत है। तो आज हम लोग एक मॉक करने वाले हैं एंड प्राइमरीली वी गोइंग टू फोकस ऑन सेक्शन ए ऑफ द मॉक, क्योंकि हमने सेक्शन बी के ऑलरेडी चार या पाँच क्वेश्चंस ऑलरेडी कर चुके हैं। तो अभी ये मॉक में वी गोइंग टू फोकस ऑन सेक्शन ए। सो हैव अ लुक एट द मॉक। ये मॉक है जो आपके CBE वर्कस्पेस में है। दिस इज़ MJ 2021 का मॉक। तो हम लोग इसका सेक्शन ए करने वाले हैं एंड सेक्शन बी वी हैव ऑलरेडी डन। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द मॉक। तो पहले तो जब भी हम लोग एक मॉक करते हैं वी हैव टू रीड द रिक्वायरमेंट्स फर्स्ट एंड देन रीड द क्वेश्चन। So for that, let's read the requirement first. It is 1 July 2025. You are a manager in the audit department of Chief and Company, a firm of chartered certified accountants. You are assigned to the audit of Pale Company, which has a financial year ending 30th September 2025. Pale Company manages timber plantations, its core business being the management of timber plantations and the production and sale of a range of timber products. It is not currently a listed entity. The following exhibits available on the left-hand side of the screen provide relevant information to the question. Now there are various exhibits जो उन्होंने हमें दिए हुए हैं। टोटल 5 exhibits दिए हैं। पहला वाला है the partner's email. Second one is the background information. Third one is the notes from meeting. Fourth one is the key performance indicators and the fifth one is notes from phone call. तो पहले में an email which you have received from Harvey Rebus, the audit engagement partner, वो contents दिए हुए हैं. Second one is the background information relevant to audit planning. In the third one, they've given us notes from meeting, that is summary of business developments discussed at a recent meeting between the chief finance officer and the audit engagement partner. Then चौथे वाले में दिए हैं key performance indicators, that is a summary of financial and non-financial information. In the fifth one, they've given us notes from phone call. So there was a phone call and उसमें से उन्होंने minutes दिए हैं. A summary of issues raised by the CFO during a discussion with the audit engagement partner. तो ये सब exhibits है. पहले आपको requirements देखने हैं and then आपको question पढ़ना है. अभी requirements is given here in exhibit 1. Section A का जो question है हमेशा याद रखना is always an email question and जो आप answer लिखोगे that is always going to be a reply to the email. तो ये एक format में लिखना पड़ता है because it's a reply that you make to the email. तो this is the email that we have got. अभी हमको reply भी यही format में करना है. So to the audit manager from Harvey Rebus, audit engagement partner, subject audit planning for Pale Company, date 1 July 2025. Hello, I have provided you with some information which you should use to help you in planning the audit of Pale Company for the financial year ending 30th September 2025. As you know, Pale Company is a new audit client of our firm. I hope you are looking forward to working on this interesting new client, which is the first timber company we have secured as an audit client. तो ये पहला client है उनका which is in the timber market. तो ये तो एक audit risk है. You should also be aware that the management team is planning for Pale Company to achieve a stock market listing within the next 2 years. I require you to prepare briefing notes for my own use in which you evaluate the business risk to be considered in planning the audit of Pale Company. What is a business risk? जो भी कठिनाइयाँ आती है in the smooth functioning of the business, whatever problems a company faces in the smooth functioning of the business is known as business risk. Evaluate the audit risk to be considered in planning the audit of Pale Company. Whatever difficulties जो भी है are during the audit of a company. Whatever difficulties are coming in the way during the audit of the company is known as audit risk. Note, in relation to the company's timber plantation asset, You're only required to consider audit risk relating to changes in fair value. Any other relevant audit risk relating to the timber plantation assets will be dealt with separately later in the planning stage of the audit. Then C. Design the audit procedures to be performed in relation to the change in fair value of the timber plantation asset caused by the recent storms. Your procedures should include those relating to the evaluation of the expert appointed by management and the work they have performed. And D. Using Exhibit 5, explain the ethical issues and other audit planning implications which arise in relation to the phone call from the company's Chief Finance Officer, Mark York. Thank you. This is an email. You have to write your reply as if you're replying to the email. अभी ये हमने पढ़ लिया. Now read the requirement is given in Exhibit 1. That is how we understood the requirement is in Exhibit 1. Abhi the entire requirements have 46 marks and only 4 marks are available for professional. But this is an old question. Since September 2022 एक नया फॉर्मेट आया जहाँ पे 20 marks is compulsory for professional, जिसमें से 10 marks is in Section A. तो Section A का जो requirement है that will only be for 40 marks and professional will be 10 marks. तो अभी इसमें कंफ्यूज मत हो जाना, ये पुराना क्वेश्चन है. सिंस सितंबर 2022 ये जो है 46 का दैट विल बी ओनली फॉर 40 मार्क्स एंड प्रोफेशनल विल बी 10 मार्क्स. 10 मार्क्स कैसे अर्न करने हैं ये डे 1 पे मैंने ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन किया है. नाउ लेट्स रीड द क्वेश्चन. Pale Company owns and manages several large timber plantations. Approximately 5% of the trees are harvested each year. The company immediately processes the timber which is harvested from felled trees in its own sawmills. The processed timber, which is mainly logs and planks of wood, is then sold to a range of customers, including construction companies and furniture manufacturers. Approximately 30% of the timber is exported. Your firm was appointed as auditor to Pale Company in March 20X5 following the resignation of the previous auditor, Hare Associates. As part of your firm's client acceptance procedures, communication was received from Hare Associates indicating that their reason for resignation was due to the retirement of the partner responsible for the audit and that they had no issues to bring to your attention regarding the audit. Pale Company has a small internal audit department with 2 staffs who report to the company's CFO as the company does not have an audit committee. Notes from the meeting. Meeting date was 10th June 20X5 and the people who attended the meeting was Harvey Rebus, the audit engagement partner, and Mark Yoke, the CFO. Accounting policies. Mark Yoke confirms that Pale Company applies the requirements of IS 41 Agriculture as follows. Standing timber, which means trees which are grown in the timber plantation prior to being felled, are biological assets measured at fair value less cost to sell. The change in fair value less cost to sell is included in profit or loss for the period in which it arises. Felled trees are agricultural produce which are measured at fair value less cost to sell at the point of harvest. Immediately after felling, trees are processed so that the value of felled trees awaiting processing is minimal at any point in time. Processed timber such as logs are measured in accordance with IS2 inventories. A technical expert from the audit firm has confirmed that the accounting policies outlined above appear appropriate in the context of Pale Company's activities. International expansion. Pale Company's operations are currently all based in its home jurisdiction, that is in one country. However, the board has recently approved the acquisition of several large areas of tropical rainforest in Farland, a remote developing country. The expansion will allow the company to process new types of timber for which there is significant demand from luxury furniture manufacturers. The acquisition of the areas of rainforest will cost $25 million and the purchase is due to take place in August 20x5. The cost of $25 million is equivalent to the fair value of the rainforest. Farland uses the same currency as Pale Company, so the expansion is not creating any foreign exchange risk exposure to the company. The purchase is being funded through a share issue to existing and new shareholders who are mainly family members of the Pale family who established the company 20 years ago. A share issue was the only option for funding the international expansion as the company is at the limit of its bank borrowing agreement. An international development agency has agreed to provide a grant of $20 million to assist Pale Company in its Farland expansion on condition that the expansion represents sustainable and ethical business practice. The grant is provided specifically for training the local workforce and building accommodation for the workforce in a town near to the rainforest. The grant is due to be received in September 20x5 and relevant expenditure will commence in November 20x5. Mark York is planning to recognize half of the amount received as income in the year's financial statement on the basis that it will cover some of management's expenses in planning the international expansion. Then gold standard. The company is proud to have recently been awarded an industry gold standard accreditation for its sustainable timber management. To achieve the gold standard, which denotes the highest possible level of sustainable timber management and ethical business practice, the company must adhere to a number of strict standards. This includes maintaining the biodiversity of the timber plantation, ensuring that rare species of trees are not harvested, and that animal habitats within the timber plantation are preserved. To maintain the gold standard accreditation, one condition is that at least 80% of timber sold must be harvested according to the strict standards set by industry regulators. The gold standard applies to all of the company's activities, including the Farland expansion. Contract with Royal Company. The company's revenue has increased this year largely due to its signing a significant contract with a new customer, Royal Company. The contract was signed on the basis of Pale Company receiving the gold standard accreditation for its timber. Then there's a legal case also. A group of employees has recently commenced legal action against the company, claiming that breaches of health and safety guidelines regularly take place. The company has made some redundancies this year, which has put pressure on the remaining staff to work harder in order to maintain the productivity. The employees are alleging that this has caused an increase in the number of accidents at work, some of which have resulted in fatalities. The company's management and legal advisors believe that the legal claim, which amounts to $19 million, is unjustified and will not be successful. Mark York does not intend to recognize a provision for the claim or make any disclosure in the financial statements in relation to this issue as it is at such an early stage in the legal proceedings. Use of expert. Change in fair value due to recent storms. In the last month, several storms caused damage to some areas of timber plantation. An independent expert has been appointed by management to determine the extent of damage caused and to quantify any financial implications, including determination of change in the fair value of the standing trees which have been damaged by the storm. The expert's report indicates a large number of trees have been completely destroyed and many have been badly damaged. Based on the expert's report, management has determined that a reduction in fair value of $70.5 million should be recognized in respect of timber plantation assets recognized in the statement of financial position. Then the KPIs, that is the key performance indicators. The information in the table below will be published as a part of the annual report in a section titled Key results for the year, which forms part of management's commentary on the company's performance. The financial information is before recognizing the change in fair value of timber plantation caused by the recent storm and also before accounting for government grant. This is the projected and the actual. Projected मतलब आपको जो लगता है कि होगा, and actual मतलब जो हुआ है actually. तो उसमें का परसेंटेज चेंज दिया है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल रेवेन्यू आपको लगता था कि 42.5 होगा पर एक्चुअल सिर्फ 40.3 हुआ है, लाइक दैट. You are also provided with the following information relating to balances which are extracted from management accounts as at 30th June 20x5. Total assets are 550 million, whereas last year the assets were 545. Timber plantation is 500 million. Last year it was 490. This amounts relating to standing timber is before accounting for any change in value caused by the recent storms referred to in Exhibit 3. Then inventory. Last year it was 9.2, this year it is 15.4. लेकिन इन्वेंट्री का कैसा है पता है, ज़्यादा भी लेवल रखना इज़ नॉट सेफ बिकॉज इट इज़ पॉसिबल कि ये लेवल वुड नॉट गेट सोल्ड. तो देन देर इज़ ऑलवेज अ पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ ऑब्सोलीट इन्वेंट्री. So the increased level of inventory is explained by management as follows. In the last 2 months, industrial action at the country's ports meant no containers of processed timber could be shipped to our export customers. The missed export sales so far amount to about $2.1 million. We continued to harvest and process timber during this time, leading to an increased level of inventory. The industrial action is ongoing. $4.5 million cash is this year and last year it was 6.8, तो cash भी घट चुका है. And if you calculate the percentage, you just do 6.8 minus 4.5 divided by 6.8 into 100, you will get 33.8%. तो इतना 33.8% का cash कम हुआ है. तो cash levels are depleted this year due to inflationary pressure and demands for higher wages from our employees, which we have met. Then this is the phone call that has happened. Notes from a phone call yesterday between Harvey Rebus, audit engagement partner, and Mark York. So what was the request that came from Mark York? Pale Company publishes a wide range of non-financial, social and environmental key performance indicators as a part of annual report, including the 3 shown as part of Exhibit 4. Mark has asked if our firm can provide assurance on these KPIs as part of performing the annual audit. Mark has suggested that in order to pay for this extra work, the agreed audit fee will be increased by 20%, assuming that the assurance provided on the KPIs is favorable. Then news report. Mark informed us that a news report has emerged in Farland alleging that Pale Company paid the government official a sum of $15,000 in order to secure the purchase of tropical rainforest, which is taking place next month. Mark wanted to make us aware of the story, which is spreading quickly on social media, and to inform us that these incentive payments are routine business practice in Farland. He also strongly urged us not to investigate the payment as part of our audit procedures, saying that the amount is insignificant. He suggested that making inquiries regarding the payments might mean more media attention is focused on the issue, which he is keen to avoid given the company's plan to obtain a stock market listing within the next 2 years. So he is given a 15,000, it's like a bribe actually, and he doesn't want the matter to be investigated. So why he doesn't want the matter to be investigated if it's not a bribe then? Right? So then that is one more issue. So let's start with the requirements. अभी मैं आपको एक सिचुएशन बताती हूँ. मैंने आपको बोला है कि आपको मॉक प्रैक्टिस करना है ये साइड पे. अगर आप वे नहीं करते हो और आपको लगता है नहीं ये तो मैं मैनेज कर पाऊँगा, लेकिन व्हेन यू आर राइटिंग द सोल्यूशन, यू आर स्विचिंग बिटवीन मल्टीपल ऐप्स, इसकी अगर आपको प्रैक्टिस चाहिए तो आपको सॉल्व करना ही पड़ेगा, वरना एग्ज़ाम में फिर आपको डिफ़िकल्ट होगा टू स्विच बिटवीन मल्टीपल ऐप्स. तो पहले तो मुझे स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा विद बिजनेस रिस्क एंड ऑडिट रिस्क. उसके पहले आई नीड टू कंसिडर दैट दिस इज़ अ रिप्लाई टू द ईमेल. सो मुझे उस फॉर्मेट में ही लिखना पड़ेगा. ओके, बिकॉज दिस इज़ अ रिप्लाई टू द ईमेल. Therefore, so let's begin with the solution. तो दिस इज़ अ रिप्लाई टू द ईमेल और मुझे उसी तरह से वो लिखना पड़ेगा. ओके, सो आई विल फर्स्ट मेक द फॉर्मेट एंड देन आई विल स्टार्ट राइटिंग द आंसर. Point number A, point number B, point number C wise. Okay, so first of all, to Harvey Rebus, he is the audit engagement partner. Then from audit manager, subject audit planning in relation to tail company. Then date, July 20x5. दिस इज़ द ईमेल. अभी हमको रिप्लाई करना है ये ईमेल को. सो फर्स्ट यू हैव टू राइट एन इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ व्हाट ऑल यू गोइंग टू इंक्लूड इन दिस ईमेल. सो राइट डाउन द इंट्रोडक्शन. दिस इज़, ये जो फॉर्मेट है ये आपको फॉलो करना ही पड़ेगा. इसके लिए ही तो आपको प्रोफेशनल मार्क्स मिलेंगे. तो द इंट्रोडक्शन एंड आफ्टर ऑल द रिक्वायरमेंट्स आर डन, एंड में आपको लिखना है कंक्लूजन. सो दिस इज़ योर रिप्लाई टू द ईमेल टू हार्वे रिबस. दिस इज़ हाउ योर ईमेल विल लुक लाइक. इंट्रोडक्शन के बाद ABCDEF जितने भी रिक्वायरमेंट्स है वो आएंगे और एंड में आएगा कंक्लूजन. So what all you have to write? You have to write the business risk, you have to write the audit risk, so all that write down in the introduction. So these briefing notes have been prepared to assist in planning the audit of tail company. The notes begin with an evaluation of the business risks facing the company and continue by evaluating the audit risks which should be considered in planning the audit. The notes also include the recommended principal audit procedures audit procedures which have been designed in respect of a change in fair value to the company's timber plantation following a recent storm, because there's a storm that has come. इसके लिए आपको क्वेश्चन पढ़ते समय ही उसको ध्यान से पढ़ना है कि आपको इंट्रोडक्शन में सबके रिक्वायरमेंट्स में से थोड़ा थोड़ा लिखना है. सो फॉलोइंग अ रीसेंट storm. Finally, the notes discuss some ethical and other professional issues arising from a recent phone call with the company's CFO Chief Finance Officer, which impact on our audit planning. This is the introduction. So the first, now the A part, now do A, B, C, D, whatever is asked. In the A part, you have to identify the business risk. अभी मैंने जैसे आपको बोला बिजनेस रिस्क मतलब कोई भी रुकावटें जो आती है इन द वे ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस. सो business risks. Okay. अभी पहले तो द कंपनी वांट्स टू एक्सपैंड. ओके, तो वो करंटली अपने होम जुरिस्डिक्शन में है, वहाँ से उसको होना है एक्सपैंड. तो व्हेनेवर द कंपनी वांट्स टू एक्सपैंड देयर इज़ ऑलवेज अ बिजनेस रिस्क कि हम लोग को एक्सपेंशन पे ज़्यादा कॉन्सेंट्रेट करने हैं, क्योंकि यहाँ पे हमने ऑलरेडी नाम बना चुके हैं. अभी दूसरा ब्रांच जहाँ पे खोलने वाले हैं वहाँ पे हमको नाम बनाना है, तो हमारा सब कॉन्सेंट्रेशन जो है वो वहाँ पे है, तो यहाँ पे हम लोग कॉन्सेंट्रेट नहीं कर रहे हैं. सो दैट इज़ अ बिजनेस रिस्क कि जब भी इंटरनेशनल एक्सपेंशन होता है वी टेंड टू कॉन्सेंट्रेट मोर ऑन द न्यू एरिया देन द ओल्ड एरिया. सो दैट इज़ द बिजनेस रिस्क. तो लिखो, द फर्स्ट वन इज इंटरनेशनल expansion. In this, write down the expansion into Farland introduces a business risk that the company will be managing operations in a foreign country for the first time. Farland is remote, so it may be difficult for pale company's management team to plan regular visits to the new operations so establishing robust management, oversight and controls could be difficult. In addition, Falun may have different laws and regulations compared to the company's home jurisdiction, because obviously it's a different country, so they will have different laws and regulations compared to the company's home jurisdiction. So there is a heightened risk of non-compliance. Even the type of trees growing in the rainforest will be different, and the management may not have experience in harvesting, processing, and selling timber products in that area, because we have not done business in that area ever. All of these issues create a risk that the international expansion may not be successful and at the same time will represent a drain on management's time and resources. Operations in the home country of pale company may suffer as a result. Okay, this is the first business risk. The second one, gold standard accreditation. The company wants a gold standard accreditation, and for that the company can do anything. So just to get the gold standard accreditation, there might be many things that the company does which might not be good for the business. So then again, that is a business risk. So the next point that we have is gold standard accreditation. There is a risk that gold standard accreditation may not be renewed, with implications for reputation and, more specifically, for the new contract with Royal Company. एंड रॉयल कंपनी की वजह से हमारा रेवेन्यू कितना इंक्रीज हो रहा है? बाय 5.5%. सो विच लार्जली अकाउंट्स for an increase of 5.5% in the company's revenue this year. Several of the KPIs, that is the key performance indicators, which need to be met to retain the gold standards, may seem to decline. For example, there has been a decline in the percentage of timber which is harvested in line with gold standards requirements. And the projected metric of 82% is only about the required level of 80%, because the required level is 80%. In addition, the gold standard is linked to ethical business practice and there are some indications that the company's business ethics are questionable. Why? For example, the legal case being brought by employees and the incentive payment made to the government official. And if the gold standard accreditation is lost, what if it's lost? What will happen? Royal Company and other such customers will, withdraw the contract. They will cancel the contract. So Royal Company and other customers may cancel contracts resulting in a loss of revenue and cash flow. Okay, then next, this contract will be lost. The next is a legal case. So legal case is worth 19 million, and if the case becomes payable, you have to pay the money. And if you have to pay the money, it is not something which you're prepared for in the business. So इसकी वजह से आपका business affect होगा. So then that is also a business risk. So write down the next point. That is, what's the next point? Legal case. The legal action against the company by its own employees is a significant risk. Is a significant risk if the issue becomes public knowledge there will be reputational problems and the amount which is being claimed what is the amount? 19 million exceeds the company's cash balance. What is the cash balance? It's 4.5 and last year it was 5. Cash balance. If the legal claim were to go against the company, it would struggle to pay the damages, that is 19 million, given that it is already at the limit of its borrowing arrangements. And this situation could also indicate poor governance of the company if decisions are being made which put the lives of employees at risk and results in days lost due to accidents at work. And the matter seems to be dismissed as unimportant by the management and legal advisors. Okay, that is the legal case. What is the other business risk that can happen? There's a recent storm that has come, and because of the storm, a lot of timber plants have been damaged. So that is also a business risk. Yes, damage to asset caused by storms. So the next one we have is damage to assets caused by storms. The recent storms have caused significant damage to the company's timber plantation unpredictable weather patterns could cause further harm or even totally destroy the company's timber plantation. Assuming that trees will be replanted to replace the damage caused by the storm, it can take many years for trees to grow to a harvestable size. Because obviously एक बार जो पौधे डिस्ट्रॉय हो गए हैं उनके जगह पे आप नए तो लगाएंगे, लेकिन for them to be big and for them to be a harvestable size, it will take a lot of time. So the company faces a significant depletion on its future cash inflows for years to come. This risk is very difficult to mitigate. Perhaps the diversification into tropical rainforest is a way to reduce the risk exposure of the company's operations being concentrated in one geographical area. Okay. This incentive payment of 15,000, it appears to be like a bribe. Yes, and if it comes out in the media, your business is going to become less. इसका एक example है कि a few years back ऐसा एक report आया था कि मैगी contains lead and that is why people stopped purchasing it and all of that. तो ऐसा अगर कुछ मीडिया में आता है तो the sales drop. हालांकि बाद में मैगी ने प्रूव किया कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं था, but up to that point of time the sales did drop, right? So the next one we have is incentive payment. The fact that the payment being reported in the media indicates that there is something unusual about the payment and in fact the incentive payment could be a bribe. The reputational risk to the company is high especially given that it should be adhering to a high standard of business ethics because it wants a gold accreditation, gold standard, because in accordance with its gold standard accreditation. Customers may not wish to associate themselves with a supplier which engages in such bribes, because people don't want to be associated with somebody who gives bribes. So customers may not wish to associate themselves with a supplier which engages with unethical and possibly illegal payments. The company could face legal action if needed, and the payment is a bribe. And aside from this reputational risk, it has very little cash available to pay any fine or penalty imposed. And if it is proven that this penalty is it's a bribe, then there could be implications for the same. So if incentive payment is proven to be a bribe, there could be implications for the government grant which contains stipulations regarding ethical business practices. In the worst case, the grant may need to be repaid if the terms and conditions are found not to have been complied with. Right? So these are the business risks. Now before we write the second category of audit risk, we take a break of 5 minutes. Now B part is audit risks. Evaluation of audit risks. Okay, so the first audit risk, as I told you, is that it is a new client. This firm is a new client for us, and this is the first time that we are auditing a company which makes timber, So that is the audit risk, new client, because we don't know how to conduct audit of somebody who has been in the industry of timber. Plus, since it's a new client, we are not well versed with the client. We don't know their procedures, we don't know their policies. So there is going to be an increased detection risk until we take some time and understand the client first. Okay, so this is the first year in which Chief and Company has audited the company, which increases detection risk as our firm does not have experience with the client, making it more difficult to detect material misstatements. In addition, there is a risk that opening balances and comparative information may not be correct, because last year's closing is this year's opening. Last year audit was conducted by somebody else, so we don't know that if their figures are correct or no. We cannot give guarantee of last year's closing, which is this year's opening, right? The prior year figures were not audited by Chief and Company. Therefore, we should plan to audit the opening balances carefully in accordance with the relevant standard. To ensure that opening balances and comparative information are both free from material misstatement. This is the first audit risk, that it's a new client. Now the company is not listed on a stock exchange, is what we have known from the information that we have read. It wants to get listed on the stock exchange, but right now it is not on a stock exchange. So when you are not listed, it's not compulsory for you to follow the corporate governance. But if you're planning to get listed in the future, then you must follow. It's better to follow corporate governance. So that is the next audit risk. Corporate governance. The company does not have to comply with corporate governance requirements as it is not a listed entity. However, it is a good practice to have an established audit committee, especially for a large company like tail company, which is seeking a stock exchange, market flotation, in the relevant future. Now this internal audit team is small and lacking independence, as they report directly to the CFO. This means that the scope of work is likely to be limited. Quite limited due to insufficient resources and any recommendations made could possibly be ignored by Mark York. This has implications of controls over financial reporting, which could be deficient and increase control risk. There is high scope of error in financial reporting process and scope of manipulation. Right? The second one. Then the third one, They're looking for a listing in the stock exchange. They even want the gold standard accreditation. For that, they can do anything to show that they are a very good company, their results are massive, and they're making a lot of profits. So, because they want to have a listing, they can play around with their results and they can manipulate their results. So, pressure on results. Okay. The company is not a listed entity, but the existing new shareholders will be looking for a return on their investments in the form of dividend payment. In addition, in the run up to the potential stock market flotation, there will be pressure for the company to show good financial performance just to get that accreditation. The company over and above this has plans for international expansion. So the company also has ambitious international expansion plans and pressure to return a better performance creates an incentives for management bias. So because of this reason, the bias can happen, which means to create a healthier picture means a better picture. Create a healthier picture, that means a better picture, basically window dressing of financial performance than the actual case. This creates an inherent risk of material misstatement at the financial statement level. Okay, this is the pressure on the result. Then we are receiving government grants. We're receiving a government grant, which is, I think, see. The grant. we're receiving a grant of 20 million. So why are we receiving that grant? To come and expand in Farland. They are giving us grant. So that is the next audit risk. That is government grant or government grant of $20 million has been awarded to payroll company, and this is how, and this material to the projected statement of financial position. Mark York has suggested that he will recognize $10 million of the amount received, that is the amount received as grant in profit for the year, so the profits would be increased. But grant is not a profit. It is not something that you have made. It is what the government has given you. So the profit would be increased and the amount would be highly material. So that is regarding the government grant. Then there's a legal case that is there, and the claim amount is 19 million, which can be made payable. So if the company fails to provide the 19 million, there might be an audit risk for the same. So if you are liable to pay, you have to make preparation for how you are going to repay the 19 million. So the next point is the legal case. The legal case could also give rise to a risk of understated liabilities or inadequate disclosure if the company fails to provide for the $19 million. Claimed by employees or disclose the matter as a contingent liability. It will be a matter of significant judgment to decide whether the legal claim is likely to go against tail company or not at this early stage. So then that legal case matter should also be considered. Then the timber plantation first had a certain fair value, but now because it has been destroyed, the fair value of timber plantation has reduced because it's been destroyed by a storm. So next can be that reduction in the fair value of timber plantation. Okay, what needs to be done? The company's timber plantation amounts to, how much is it of total assets? 90.9% of total assets. So isn't it material? Because your company is based on timber, so your major assets are timber. So obviously it's going to be 90.9% of total company's assets and is therefore highly material the company has correctly obtained an expert opinion on the change in fair value of the destroyed and damaged trees caused by the storm. And there is also a risk that the expert's evaluation is not appropriate for example, if expert does not have appropriate expertise or he does not have specialist valuation knowledge. Which would lead to issues in whether the valuation can be relied upon What else can you write about the timber plantation? Because we cannot give guarantee of the expert. We are not experts, right? Then now you tell me, for the company, what is the main asset? The main asset is the timber plantation, and such a big storm came and so much of the timber was destroyed. Isn't this a going concern issue wherein your major product is damaged? तो अगर आपका major product ही नहीं है तो आप बेचोगे क्या? So this is a very big going concern issue. So your next point can be going concern. There are several indicators that despite its projected increase in revenue and profit, the company faces going concern problems. These indicators include but are not limited to operational problems, including the destroyed timber plantation, and industrial action. Reputational damage caused by the legal claim and possible illegal payments. Then financial problems caused by lack of cash, because the cash is also reduced as compared to last year. And the fact that the results can be too much worse than projected. That is also possible. Yes. So again, that is the problem. So that B part is complete. And before we do the C part, we take a break of 5 minutes. So next we have is the C part. In C part, what they've told us to find. Design the audit procedures to be performed in relation to the change in fair value of the timber plantation asset caused by the recent storms. Your procedures should include those relating to the evaluation of the expert appointed by management and the work they have performed. So, change in the fair value of timber plantation asset. Change in the fair value of timber plantation asset. So the first point is obtain the expert's report on the value of the destroyed and damaged timber plantation to obtain it to what? To gain an understanding and allow evaluation of the methodology and assumptions used. Example, the basis of determining the amount of any income which may be generated from the timber to be salvaged from damaged trees. This is one. Second one is to confirm the geographical extent of damage by the storm. And next, to confirm the basis of determining whether trees have been completely destroyed or damaged. Then next, discuss the expert's methodology and assumptions with management to confirm their rational way and compliance with the measurement requirements. Okay, then next, the measurement requirements will be according with IS 41 agriculture, because this is a timber plantation that we are talking about. So when you write the point, you speak according to the situation. Then next, obtain confirmation of the expert's qualification and experience in assessing storm damage to timber plantation assets and quantifying financial losses. Then obtain confirmation that the expert is independent from payroll company and its management team. Why is it so? To make sure that they are not biased with their decisions. So it's an independent expert. Then next, if possible, visit the site of the storm damage to form a view on the scale of the destruction and to evaluate whether any assets other than trees have been destroyed or damaged. Then obtain any documentation relating to any potential sale of damaged trees, because damaged trees they are not going to throw away, they'll try to sell it at a lower price. So any documentation relating to the potential sale of damaged trees, just to know at what cost they are selling it. To confirm the realizable value of damaged trees. Then consider the use of auditor's expert is necessary to provide sufficient and appropriate evidence given the materiality of the figures. Okay, and then finally the D part. What does the D part ask you to do? Ethical issues regarding the phone call. Now the phone call is there here. This is the phone call, so just go through the phone call. You are going to write ethical issues in the phone call, and then I told you at the end you have to always write the conclusion. Okay, so let's write that. The first one is assurance. First give the heading, ethical issues. So the first one is the assurance on the key performance indicators. So there are several issues to consider with regard to providing this service. A significant issue relates to auditor objectivity. The key performance indicators include financial and non-financial metrics. The financial metrics including revenue, operating profit, and profit before tax will be extracted from and reconciled to the figures as shown in the audited financial statements. While the KPIs will not form a part of the audited financial statements, they will be published in the annual report, and therefore, where will it come? Form a part of other information then because of that, what will happen? There is therefore a potential self-review threat to objectivity in that the audit firm has been asked to provide assurance on these KPIs which would be read by the audit team as a part of their review of other information. Okay. You still have to explain the point further, but I've just given you like whatever I've picked up from that point. The next one we have is regarding the incentive payment. So regarding the incentive payment, what can be said? They are saying that it's a routine payment, but maybe it is something related to like a bribe. Yes, so Mark York has suggested that incentive payments are routine but it could be against the law. The incentive payment raises concerns that the company may not be complying with relevant laws and regulations because the incentive payment could be a bribe and an illegal payment. If so, this indicates a lack of integrity of management, as clearly Mark York is aware of the payment and he seems to just be justifying it. Okay. Then you explain this point further and say that CFO would be lacking integrity as he's trying to keep the issue a secret. So that also one you can explain. That is, the CFO would appear to lack integrity as he is trying to keep the issue a secret. The audit engagement partner should consider whether other representations made by Mark York should be treated with an added emphasis on professional skepticism and the risk of management bias leading to a risk of material misstatement that could be high. This should be discussed during the audit team briefing meeting. Okay, so but you have to explain this further. I've just given you the key points of it. And finally, you will write the conclusion. And in conclusion, you will just write down what all you have found out, and in whatever you have found out, what have you learned from the same. So these briefing notes highlight that the company faces significant business risk, in particular in relation to its financial position and the recent storm damage. There are a number of significant audit risks which will need to be carefully considered during the planning of the audit to ensure that an appropriate audit strategy is devised. Also, we spoke about going concern. So say going concern should be a key focus of the audit. And we need to perform detailed work on the highly material change in fair value of timber plantation due to recent storm. As detailed in the notes. Finally, there are several ethical matters to be discussed with management and incorporated into our audit plan. And the assurance engagement on the company's KPIs should only go ahead once all ethical implications have been carefully evaluated and appropriate safeguards put in place. Okay, so this is the conclusion. With this, we complete the section A, but remember, these are just the main points that I've written for section D. You have to explain the points further, and somewhere for section B also. मैं ये आशा करती हूँ कि ये पर्टिकुलर रिविजन आपके लिए बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट रहा है एंड इट विल ऐड टू व्हाट यू हैव ऑलरेडी स्टडीड. I wish you all the best for the exams. May you pass out with flying colors and may this revision help you a lot. I would end my 5-day or advanced audit and assurance revision session by giving you a tip कि exam के पहले at least 3 mocks on this constructive workspace आप करो and check those mocks, self mark करो. मैंने पहले दिन में सिखाया था how to self mark. And if you guys have any doubts, please put it in the comments below. And yes, that's it. Practice the questions here. Do the mocks here. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for attending.